Welcome to Stuck Time to Improv. I'm Mary Scott with Business Riff, and I want startups to be wildly successful. Today, we're going to be talking about how to set up your books to be a successful startup and not make mistakes you're going to have to correct later. Our special guest is Sarah A. Page from SAP Virtual Resources. Welcome, Sarah.
Welcome. Thank you for having me.
So tell me, what's the first thing that startups need to do to set up their books?
The very first thing you need to do is make sure you have a separate account for your business from your personal. Before you even get into tracking your income and expenses, that is the most important thing because it keeps you out of hot water with the IRS.
Yeah. And if those accounts are in two completely different institutions, that's even better.
It can be, yes.
Okay. So, basic things, they need to get an EIN number and set up a separate business account. And then what?
Well, yep, have your EIN, set up your business account. Make sure when you get your EIN that it matches what business you've made. So if you have an LLC that's a sole proprietor LLC, make sure when you're getting your EIN that that's the EIN you pick, because it can make a big mess later. And you, if you're just starting off and you don't have the money for a bookkeeper, using QuickBooks is a great way, or there's Zero, there's FreshBooks. I've heard about HoneyBooks, but I haven't heard great reviews from it. I have not used it, so I can't say one way or another. And if you can't afford that, a simple spreadsheet where you put your income at the top, you subtract your expenses off in the categories they need to be in, and that can right there can give you your income. And that'll work to take to your tax preparer at the end of the year. QuickBooks Online can be up to, start around 350 and up a year. So some small businesses, as they get going, they can't afford that. So a spreadsheet is a great way to start.
Sure. And I use a program called Quicken that just lives on my computer. It's not attached to anything in the universe. So
I
it
I
generates
have
a report I can send to my accountant on tax.
I have a love for Quicken. I have used that for my personal books for 20 some years now.
Yeah, and you can just get a DVD and download it, and you're good to go.
Well, they went to a subscription for that one too.
They do,
If you
but
want,
there's
you don't have to, but if you're just getting it now, they no longer have the DVDs or the CDs that you can buy. So you have to go with a subscription. And
okay.
yes, I am biased towards Quicken because I've been using it for so many decades.
Okay. So let's talk about some of the basic categories people need to pay attention to.
The basic ones that you really want to pay attention to are the ones on the Schedule C. Interest that you've paid, advertising and marketing, payroll wages if you have employees. You want to have mileage in there. There are a couple of different ways that you can track your travel expenses if you're an entrepreneur. Mileage is the easier one rather than taking a percentage of the use of the vehicle and things like that. It's a harder calculation. So tracking the miles is the best. You want to track uniforms, office supplies, and depending on your business, obviously, your cost of goods. So in accounting with me, my cost of goods is my accounting software and my payroll software because that is what I need to use to sell my service. I work with a lot of contractors. So if they're plumbers or roofers, their job supplies are going to be their cost of goods. And
And
then, of course,
lease,
contract labor.
yeah, and keeping track of leases and those kinds of things. And every time you go to meet a client or go to a networking event to pitch or to look for clients, that's called marketing. all,
It
that's
is.
all marketing.
Yes. I know the IRS has tightened down on meals that can be deducted, but if you're going to a BNI meeting, they usually meet during breakfast or lunch or a chamber luncheon meeting. Those Those lunches are definitely expendable, and to track those. And yes, the leases, if you're renting your business office, you want to keep track of that, especially for year end, because that's when your 1099s come into effect. If you're not paying a corporate entity that rent, you need to send out a 1099 at the end of the year to your landlord.
And you also need to keep track of your income because you need to know what your numbers are, right?
Right. And if you have multiple streams of income, keep track of each one. So if you're a speaker that also has book sales or consulting, make sure you track each of those separate because it also tells you which jobs that you're doing make the most income. So if you're making a lot of income from, let's say, more consulting than speaking, that way you can decide if you want to continue being a speaker. It
That's
helps you make decisions as to what is the most profitable part of your business and what you want to focus on.
very good. So any additional what's like a big thing that people should pay attention to, but often don't even know it's there?
One of the big things I see when they have employees is payroll, making sure that they understand if you hire someone for $10 an hour and they work 40 hours, the payroll cost is not $400. You have your employer, Social Security, Medicare, federal unemployment, state unemployment, your workers' comp. So you have to take that all into consideration when dealing with employees. And another one that I see that people don't realize is part of the bookkeeping is that 1099s when they have subcontractors come on site, when they hire uh, laborers should go under payroll, but if they do it through a company like Elwood Staffing, they need to keep track of how much they pay. They need to make sure they have a W-9, and because at the end of the year, they're going to need to send 1099s if they pay more than $600 to a non-corporate business or person.
Right? And that's why it's often very cost effective and legally effective to outsource your payroll to a company that does this stuff all the time. The fees that you pay them are going to be worth your lack of pain and suffering later, right?
Yes. I work with Gusto is a great company, and they take care of making sure that you don't miss anything. They make sure nothing falls through the cracks.
And
And
they make sure that that money that's going to go to government or taxes or whatever is already put aside. So it's not going to be coming out unexpectedly at some point in the future.
right, because that's another thing that people run into is, oh, I paid the payroll, and then they get to the end of the quarter. And again, because they didn't consider all of the taxes, they don't have that money set aside that now they owe for all the taxes they've deducted from their employees' checks plus their share of the taxes.
Well, thank you so much, Sarah Page from SAP Resources, right? It's Virtual Resources.
Yes.
Thanks again. Yeah. And we'll put information in the comments for people to contact you for more fabulous information about making sure you do it right the first time so you don't have to fix it later. I'm
Yes.
Mary Scott with Business Riff, and I want startups to be wildly successful. And one of the best ways you can do to accomplish that is book a synergy call with me at businessriff.com. And join us again next time for Stock Time to Improv.